Hello folks and welcome to F1 Live, your post-race show coming to you live and direct from the paddock here at Silverstone after the British Grand Prix 2021. And what a day for Alex Albon to make his debut as co-host of the post-race show. My words, an amazing race, a red flag, your teammates, championship leader, of course, victim on the first lap there, Lewis Hamilton, our race winner. Today had it all.
Yeah, I mean, obviously at my side of the camp, it's a little bit of a different atmosphere to, I think, 90% of the people watching this. But it was a tricky one, honestly. Obviously, the main thing is Max looks to be okay. We'll still wait and see what the results say, but so far, yeah, fingers crossed, everything's okay.
Absolutely, that is the most important thing. We already have a driver with us, though, who scored brilliantly. Fernando, you were the star of the sprint yesterday. You had another great run today to P7. Tell us about your race, my man.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, thanks to the position yesterday, I think our race was a little bit cleaner when you start at the front. So yeah, we delivered 7th. I think the top 6 are unreachable at the moment for us. So yeah, 7th is the maximum. We take it. I think it's the 5th consecutive race in the point. So yeah, so far so good.
And this weekend has been wonderful for us to see the Fernando that we know back, elbows out, loving his racing. Clearly, you can see in your body language in the car how much you're enjoying it. How good is it being in the cockpit of a car that seems to be coming to you more and more every race?
Yeah, I feel better in the car, more confident in the car, more confident in the tires as well. At the beginning of the year, it was difficult to feel the fronts for me, and now, yeah, I get this confidence into qualifying and then into the first laps of the race. So I'm not too worried to make mistakes. In the first couple of weekends, I was too concerned about just use all the procedures and try to listen to the team what I had to do. Now that I have more confidence, I can use a little bit more my instinct, so I'm happy.
Good stuff. Thanks for coming on the show, man. Great weekend for Fernando Alonso. And as we said, or as I think I said at the top of the show, Lewis Hamilton is your race winner of today's British Grand Prix, quite incredibly, despite picking up a 10-second penalty for the first lap contact with Max Verstappen. He overcame that, and an incredible charge from Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari to take the victory in front of an adoring British crowd. Let's check the results. At the end of 52 laps, Lewis Hamilton is, unbelievably, the race winner. P1 for Lewis Hamilton, P2 then for Charles Leclerc. Valtteri Bottas coming home in 3rd to deny Lando Norris, who had a brilliant race, in 4th for McLaren. Then Daniel Ricciardo 5th, also for McLaren. Sainz in 6th after a horrible pit stop. Alonso, who we've just spoken to, in 7th. Then Stroll, Ocon and Tsunoda completing the top 10 after a crazy couple of final laps. Behind them in P11 was Pierre Gasly, finishing just ahead of George Russell in 12th, and Antonio Giovinazzi, Nicholas Latifi, Kimi Räikkönen, Sergio Perez, Mazepin and Schumacher, Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen not finishing the race. Sergio Perez with the fastest lap, but doesn't score the point for the fastest lap because he wasn't in the top 10. But Alex, small compensation for the team today. At least Sergio taking that denies Lewis Hamilton 1 extra point.
Yeah, that's the plan. I mean, I think most probably people thought, why would you pit with 3 laps to go? But, you know, 1 point, in the long run, it will matter at the end of it. So good thing we did it, and I think it's a limited, let's say, damage that we could do, just considering obviously Lewis winning the race.
Yeah, absolutely. Lewis did win the race, of course. It seemed, though, for the majority, for 50 laps this afternoon, as though the Fratelli d'Italia, the Italian national anthem, would be resounding once again at a great British sporting venue to deny the local crowd their hoped for victory. But it was Lewis Hamilton who ultimately swept through for the win. Your mate Charles Leclerc had a brilliant a brilliant afternoon.
He's quick here. I remember even in F3, he has a way to be able to push really hard on the tyres, but somehow minimise the damage on them. And I think this kind of track suits that, where you could see there was quite a big difference between even Lewis on them last 10 laps, how hard he could push the tyre. Obviously Charles didn't quite have the pace, but honestly, that Ferrari, to see them coming, it's quite strange to me how, you know, when you look at Monaco, they were super quick at Monaco, and it was like, okay, that's quite a specific circuit. Same as Baku, you know, very specific. They come to Silverstone, which is such a different track altogether, and it seems like there's pace in that car. It seems like one race to the next, most probably they're struggling to unlock it. But if you can be quick at Silverstone and quick at Monaco, I think there's a middle ground there where they should be quick.
Because they were worried about this weekend, because it's another front-limited circuit. They've been good in Austria, and the race pace have been fantastic, but I know they were so concerned coming here.
Yes.
The temperature seemed to have played into their hands a little bit because it was really nice and warm, but as you say, a track where no one really expected them to shine. Carlos, phenomenal race pace in the sprint yesterday. Without that slow pit stop, should have finished higher up the order today. And Charles, he damn nearly won the thing.
Super good. I mean, I was really impressed by both of them this year. But obviously, Charles, he looked in control until Lewis got past Valtteri, and then it all picked up again. So it was a really good race, I think, for the fans as well. I mean, we're getting these amazing kind of last 3-4 lap deciders, which I've never seen so many of it happen in 1 year.
It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely mad. Lando had a great race as well. Could, and for some arguably should have been a podium for him today as well, was holding off Valtteri in the early part of the race, then that horrible pit stop.
There's a few with pit stop issues, wasn't there, this weekend?
What was that? Is it the heat? Do the boys just get affected by it? Does it clog up the guns?
Honestly, to me it's just coincidence. But obviously it affected quite a few races out there. And yeah, honestly, Lando, again, he's proving how quick he is. I think he really can keep up with the Mercs as long as they're behind him. Obviously, once Valtteri got past with that pit stop, it was over. And yeah, all good.
All good as well for this guy, so nearly, again, on the verge of points today. A P12 finish with Gasly just taking you at the end. Talk us through your British Grand Prix experience.
Well, overall experience was great. I mean, obviously having the home support was amazing, and it's gone from one extreme to the other. Obviously, having no fans initially, even in drips and drabs throughout the season, and then obviously packed crowd was awesome. But I think it was always going to be difficult. We had so many faster cars behind us, and not just a little bit faster. They're substantially faster. So I think any higher than P12 would have been punching above our weight, and I think that was a fair result.
Cool.
I can tell you've not done this before.
No, I was just saying, like, everything you said, I mean, it looks like it. It looks like there was just a DRS train for me from Alonso backwards. George, do you want to have a go at this?
He didn't know what he's talking about.
I know.
He didn't know what's going on.
Just put him on the space. He's used to being on that side.
Yeah,
it's great.
I got told I'm not going to ask questions to the driver, so I was like, I'll chill out then. And then Will's just put me on the spot here.
Just sit there and watch.
But it looked like first laps always looks quite tricky in your car.
Yeah, we're always struggling on the first lap. We made a rubbish start on the first one, made a really good start the second one. So we lost 2 positions, I think, after the first, before the red flag. Not the end of the world. Like I said, I think P12 was a fair result.
But it's another weekend in which you've shown that consistent step forward, your pace in quali, yesterday in the sprint, today in the race as well. It's getting there every weekend, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we've had, top 12. I mean, we've been fighting in the top 12 in every single race, fighting for points 3 out of those 4 races. So, I mean, for whatever reason, we seem to have made a step forward, but it's so tricky. We seem to really be smashing it in qualifying, which really helps put us in the shop window. But the true pace of the car is still back there with Alfa Romeo for 8th or 9th quickest team. But we just seem to be doing a much better job than they do in the qualifying, which gives us a slightly better chance.
Great job,
Nice
man.
one.
Well done.
Ciao.
Thanks.
See you, George.
Sorry, I hung you out to dry there, didn't I?
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's weird to interview like someone that you're, because you're just like, hi Joe, you just chat rubbish most of the time.
You know him so well.
Yeah.
So you may be a bit biased here, and that's totally fine. You can be biased, but how good has he been this weekend? How much do you think he's put an absolute stamp on that decision that Mercedes need to make for next year over their driver?
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? I mean, obviously I'm always going to be pro George. I've grown up with him through karting, through all the single seaters, and he's always been quick. Especially, to me, he even got quicker and quicker. Like when we first were in single seaters, he was quick, and then it just seems to have kept making a step. And even in F1, I feel like he just keeps improving. Of course, the team are too, but you can really see it, especially now that this midfield group has closed up so much. It's amazing to see George being able to put the car in them positions. And, as he said, I think it looks tricky to follow in that car. But in general, I think they're there. They just need that one little break. I mean, any race we had a few of these races, like in Monza, in mixed conditions, whatever. He'll be there for sure.
People, well, critics would always say it's all about the car in Formula One. It's not about the driver. And yet we see in a Williams, which by rights we think shouldn't really on any regular weekend be making it out of Q1.
Yeah.
And he's not just putting it in Q2, he's putting it in Q3, and then in the race yesterday he's holding off Aston Martins and Alpines and Alfa Romeos. And is that those sort of occasions when you can turn around and say, actually, no, the driver does make the difference in that scenario?
Definitely. And I think it's obviously hard for the viewers to differentiate. It's hard for all of us to know who's outperforming, what is outperforming. And even, in the race, I can tell you George is extremely good at race pace. So you could even say, it looks like they take a step back in race pace. Could it be George? But honestly, his race pace as a driver is very strong through F2, through F3. So, I think it is going to be a moment of when, not if, for George when he gets up into the top team. It's just, we'll see. But the thing is, obviously, Valtteri's doing a pretty decent job. He is a true wingman, as much as I don't think he wants to be. He's there. He's doing really a good job for the team.
He really is. We will, of course, be talking more about Lewis Hamilton, that lap 1 incident with Max Verstappen. As Alex said, Max is, as we understand it, okay. He has been taken to hospital for some preliminary checks, having left the medical centre here. And obviously, we wish Max all the very best. But we will be discussing that incident on lap 1 a little bit later in the show, because there's a lot to go over, a lot of different angles from on high, from in the cockpit, and we will be dissecting that shortly. For now, I want to talk a little bit about the McLaren this weekend for Lando and for Daniel. It was a weekend where they, I think, had hoped to really take the fight and extend their gap over Ferrari in the championship battle, and yet they encountered a Ferrari, as we've already said earlier in the show today, that was unexpectedly fast. But still, double points on the board. Looks like Daniel's making some pace up, and Lando once again just showing class.
Exactly. I think when you come from Red Bull Ring, if you looked at their pace relative to everyone else, they were quick on the straights, but they were very efficient in the high speed as well. They were still quick through the last sector in Red Bull Ring and everything like that. I think as a team we were expecting them to be really quick this weekend. Obviously, maybe just miss out a little bit, but I mean, still they're right up there. Ferrari were really the surprises of the weekend, but as you said, I think firstly great to see Daniel, coming back, and it shows his strength. He's obviously very quick, and we all know that. But it happens, it's tricky to adapt. Cars do feel very different, and especially if you spent a while in the car. It helps to understand the little niggles in it.
Well, let's hear from Daniel now. He's been talking to Lawrence Barretto in the TV pen just moments ago, running home to a P5 finish. Daniel Ricciardo in the pen earlier today, and as Alex was saying, a great drive from him, but we can't listen to him at the moment, so instead we're going to listen to Yuki Tsunoda, who came home at an unexpected P10. A couple of strange things happening over the last couple of laps, a couple of drivers needing to jump in for a pit stop, promoting Yuki Tsunoda to an unexpected point.
Hey Yuki, after the difficult weekend you'd had up until today, are you pleased to come away with a point?
Yeah, I'm quite happy for this point. This week, different format makes it a little bit difficult for me. One free practice and straight in qualifying, which I never had in this Silverstone in Formula One. So, but the end, they're able to score a point, so that was good.
And just to finish, a few words in Japanese, please.
Lovely stuff from Yuki Tsunoda. You know all about that team, of course, over at AlphaTauri. A difficult weekend for them. 1 point, all they could bring home, but they started a little bit on the back foot. Do we think it was this new format to the weekend that caught them off guard, or is it the nature of the circuit which saw them not quite as competitive as we've seen?
Well, probably the circuit. I think Pierre's got the experience, so he's tend to hit the weekends running pretty quickly. This is a very front-limited circuit. The AlphaTauri tends to be a pretty stable car, which does mean it uses up the front tyres maybe a little bit more than another car. But yeah, it is a track where obviously I think they'll be happy to move on and focus on the next one. But saying that, I think Pierre was on for a P8 or a P9 until I think he got a puncture at the end of the race. So it was still good points. I think for them, it looks like that Ferrari McLaren car. Both of them are creeping away a little bit in terms of possibly development or whatever it may be. So their focus obviously has to change a little bit and try and finish in front of the Alpines, the Saubers, the Aston Martins.
Good stuff. Why don't we take this opportunity then to look at the start of the race? We might as well do that, I think. I know we've got Jolyon Palmer around here somewhere who's going to come in, and in fact, Lando Norris is just turning up behind me, so let's talk to Lando. Oh. Hello, Lando. So nearly a podium today, man. Was it just that long pit stop that ultimately cost it today?
Yes. Yeah. I don't know if I would have finished on the podium, because the second half of the race, the Mercs were a lot faster, and it got a bit windier. I think it played more into their hands. The hard tyres suited them a little bit more as well. But it just would have been lovely to fight for it at least. And especially here in Silverstone, in front of the fans, be in that position, race through it and have a bit of fun. But just not today. So next year maybe.
Shall I throw you under the bus again? Do you want to ask a question?
Again, you put me under the bus. I don't know what to ask you, Lando.
You're just nodding your head like, yeah.
How's your golf swing coming along?
Huh?
How's your golf swing coming along?
How's my golf swing?
We played the other day and I won.
You won?
Very off topic now, Alex, but yeah, I had a great race, mate. A lot of fun in front of the fans.
I would say, actually, coming here, you must probably have the biggest fans of everyone. To me, I see more orange and more Lando here than
there was a
anyone else.
lot, and even on like the parade lap and stuff, there's a surprisingly a large amount of orange and Lando fans. So I must be doing something right. Don't know what, but
I'm not sure.
It's cool. I mean, you know it is. It's such a cool feeling coming to your home race. And seeing all that support, and every lap you kind of look up to the grandstand and you see them standing up and cheering and waving the flags and stuff. So it makes it a lot more enjoyable. It's very special. It's a feeling you probably don't get anywhere else until you come back the following year for your home race. So I already look forward to next year being back here again and trying to do a bit better next time.
We always hear the whole, being at home is worth a couple of tenths of a second or whatever. Is that just a fallacy, or
I think it makes you slower.
Really?
So imagine where I would have been if I was.
P3 was yours.
I would have won the race otherwise, but yeah, I don't know. It's hard to put a number on it, but it definitely adds to that motivation and that spirit of wanting to do good for them. And it's the same, I think, with any sport, and like football, you want to do well for your country, and you want to do them proud and please them. So yeah, I feel like I did kind of that today, and that's all.
Well, let's talk about that restart, because that was amazing. The standing start, after that massively long red flag, and this is where you made up those positions, where you put yourself in that podium spot, and it was a beautiful start, man.
Cheers. Yeah, I mean, the first one was very good as well. So when I knew it was a red flag and then the standing start, I was actually looking forward to it, because I knew I had a good opportunity to try and do something. And like you said, it put us in that position to fight for P3. In the end, obviously, we couldn't, but if anything goes wrong, we're in that position. And there's a lot of positives in this race, a lot of good things. Our pace was probably a bit better than we were expecting, especially in the first half of the race. So yeah, some negatives, a lot of positives, and a good amount of points. So.
Well done. Thanks for coming on. Go work on the golf swing.
Cheers.
Yeah.
No, I can't. I'm much better than Alex, so I don't need to do anything.
He's not. He rages. He has a nice swing, but he doesn't hit it properly. So.
Great to have Lando on. Let's bring Jolyon Palmer in. Hello, Joe.
How
are we doing?
Good.
There's a microphone for you, my friend. How are you?
Good. Exhausted.
What a race.
It's good, wasn't it?
I know.
Entertaining the whole way through.
The whole way through, and of course entertaining right from the very start. Let's get straight into it. From Alex's perspective, from your perspective, you're the two racing drivers. I'm not. I'm going to let you guys look over this replay and talk us through it from your perspectives.
You go first, Charlie.
Well, maybe I'll be without the Red Bull hat on, possibly. I don't know what you've made of it already, but it's obviously really tense between the two title rivals. Yeah. And the racing was incredible through the first half of the lap. Neither was giving up. They were so close to touching at turn one there. Max hanging out on the outside of Lewis. Then They're really close through this complex. Obviously, Max desperate to keep the lead. I don't know what you thought here, Alex, but I was so sure they were going to come and touch down this straight.
This has been brewing since race 1 of the championship. I mean, it always seemed like Lewis had a good jump on Max the whole time, and he seems to, I don't know what it is, but the Merc seems to be good on the straights coming into the first lap. It could just be that Max obviously has the clean air, and that's the reason why. But this was interesting. This is obviously where it gets
the moment.
I mean, part of me thinks maybe Max could have closed this bit to stop Lewis from ever going into that position. But at the same time, I mean, it shows, you know, when Lewis overtook Charles, it was a similar position to me, maybe slightly different angles, but there's obviously that moment where Lewis drifts a little bit wider, collects Max, and it is a big crash, obviously. The thing is, for me, is, you know, we've been talking about it, where there is a consistency requirement now where if you have a crash, it should be the same penalty. And it's happened a few times now where it's always going to be this 10-second penalty, and I think that's where as drivers, we agreed on, actually, with Michael Massey and everyone like that. That's what we wanted, but obviously, when it comes into the heat of the moment, when championships are there, it creates, you know, so what happens, you know, in the sense that now clearly Lewis is a little bit closer to Max in the title fight, and they're an engine unit down, they're a gearbox down, it's all kind of restarting, and it does put Max on the back foot. But yeah.
Let's take a look at all of the angles on it. We'll get into the minutiae of the politics later. But here's the move. Max with the defensive move. Is it one or two moves? And then does either driver need to back out of that? And if so, who?
Well, one of them does, don't they? And look at Lewis dummies Max here. So Max goes to the middle, Lewis on the outside, and then he pounces to the inside. And to be honest, he's actually pretty much completely along the inside of Max. So then you've got two championship challengers aiming for the inside line at Cops, and one of them had to back out, or it was going to end.
So there's he alongside.
He's completely alongside. Obviously, as Alex says, he misses the apex slightly, and that's where he just moves into Max. But Max also sort of keeps turning in, and he's taking a huge risk in doing that at Cops Corner. It's a tough one. It's a really tough one. I could have seen this as a racing incident, to be honest, with neither wanting to back out, both racing each other so hard for the whole first half of a lap.
So, I think what we're looking at here is Lewis's line.
Yeah.
The line that he would have been taking into that corner. Of course, nowhere near hitting the apex of that corner, possibly understeering in. And if we look at what happened yesterday between George and Carlos, of course, George was given that penalty even though he was understeering through that corner and told you are primarily at fault. If we have a little look again here. So here, that's what we understand was Lewis's line before he turned in. Thus the reason why the stewards arguably gave him the penalty that they did.
But he's not missed the apex by far. He has missed the apex, but it's a little bit. But when you're going at that speed as well, we're talking like 100th of a second of turn in, you've got a car on your outside. These are mistakes that happen in racing as well.
So here's the thing. Everyone wants to see wheel-to-wheel, side-by-side, absolute elbows-out racing in Formula One. And most importantly, between the championship rivals. And what we had for half a lap there was side-by-side, elbows-out racing. As you say, that is millimeters at 160 miles an hour into one of the fastest corners in the sport. And it's millimeters. Does that therefore deserve a penalty, or is that a racing incident?
I could have seen it as a racing incident. I just think it's two guys fighting so hard, neither wanting to back out. Max turning in, knowing there's a Mercedes right on the inside. Lewis keeping his foot in, knowing there's a Red Bull on the outside. He misses the apex by a fraction, but he's not super wide. He does miss the apex a little bit, but I think the way they were driving for half a lap as well, one of them they were going to crash at some point. They could have been at turn one, almost in a straight line, and then it did.
And yet they showed they could give each other racing room for half a lap. So why, at this particular moment, was there none?
I'll tell you the other thing that I think. Through the season so far, Max has been so aggressive with Lewis, and we've seen it in Imola with bouncing Lewis over the curbs. Barcelona, he sent in that lunge at turn one, and always it's Lewis backing out.
Absolutely. I'm going to have to interrupt you. It's for me to say, because Sam Collins has found Christian Horner in the paddock. Very, very busy man. Lots of people want to talk to him. Sam, I know you've got a lot of questions for Christian, so we'll let you get to it.
Thanks, Will. As you know, I've been walking around the paddock and I found a man who doesn't look particularly happy right now. Christian, first of all, how's Max?
Yeah, he's still at the hospital, just awaiting results. He's done all the tests now, and yeah, you know, thankfully he's in one piece. He's bruised, he's battered, but he's okay.
And I'm guessing, like you, he's not very happy. Now, earlier in the race, you told one of my colleagues, Lawrence Barretto, that you thought it was a professional foul. I mean, that suggests intent. I mean, do you think that was deliberate?
Well, I think, you know, Lewis has put a wheel up the inside there, and I don't know what he expects the consequence, you know, to be. So it's one of the fastest corners in the World Championship. You know, you just know you don't do that kind of thing, and you know, it's disappointing for a driver that's won 7 World Championships to make a desperate error like that. And you know, we're just lucky today that it didn't have a worse consequence.
You've got a destroyed car. It's going to affect your cost gap.
Yeah.
10-second penalty. Was that enough?
Well, it's nothing. I think I said before the race, you know, that it's not a penalty that fits the crime. So I just think that yeah, it's you know, it's just enormously frustrating. But the main thing is Max is okay. You know, he's young, he's fit, he'll bounce back strong. But you know, I don't think Lewis can take any real satisfaction out of that victory today, because you know, it was unacceptable the way, you know, what he did to Max.
Well, thanks very much, Christian. I think
you.
this one's going to run and run. So, Will, I think they've got plenty more to discuss down there at the desk. I'm going to join you a little bit later in the paddock for more discussion like this.
Thanks, Sam. I appreciate that, mate. So, guys, obviously what Christian was saying there, he believes Lewis entirely at fault. I've just heard a little bit of Lewis talking to Lawrence Barretto in the pen. We'll hear that full interview later. Lewis saying he doesn't think he did anything wrong, which would fall into your side of the things, that it was more of a racing incident. Christian obviously thinks it's far, far worse than that. He used the words a professional foul during the World Feed when he was talking to Lawrence. For those that don't watch soccer or sports that have a professional foul, that is an intentional moment when somebody takes out deliberately an opponent. And I won't ask you that because your team boss has already said that. Well, do you think Christian is right? Was that a deliberate move from Lewis on Max?
Look, he's very emotional. It's cost the team and Max a huge amount of points in the championship. He's super emotional. I can understand all the emotion for the Red Bull side. Not only that, they've got a really damaged car. Lost any chance also with Checo starting from the pit lane. You know, the whole Grand Prix was basically over for them effectively. So the emotions are high, but Lewis has not done that intentionally. That's clear. The mistake he's made is an inch of an apex that he's given up, or around that, and you could say that's the error. But for me, it's two drivers fighting hard and the championship at stake.
That's the thing for me. Obviously, I have to take my Red Bull hats off for a little bit, but to me, it is a mistake. That's kind of what creates the issue, the penalty, really. I don't know if we can see it. I don't know how this thing works. But if you look at Charles's overtake, Lewis's overtake with Charles.
Yeah, we'll show that in a minute. We've got that.
This is,
if you could line that up, guys.
Kind of what Lewis does here is perfectly fine, and I think there would never have been the crash.
Yeah.
It seems like Lewis kind of understood. They were in very similar positions. Of course, Charles didn't close the door like Max did, but at the same time, you can see Lewis hit the brakes, come back off, goes on the curb.
Here we go. This is the one on Max.
This is quite a good angle, though, this one. And you can obviously loses it.
He's not a million miles off, is he?
He's not a million miles off. As Jolien said, though, it's so high speed. It's hundreds, and when you are Max in that position, you can't. It's such a short corner at such a quick rate. You cannot leave. You leave space, but you don't leave space to the point where you know he can. You're giving so much space that it's unnecessary space. Let's call it. You don't factor in margin of error to the other car too much, because if you give too much space, you will purely just get overtaken on the inside. And,
I mean,
yeah.
If you want to get it done, you could do what you did to Kimi last year and chuck it around the outside, as we're going to have a little replay of here.
Very kind of you.
You know, this is how to get it done at COPS.
Yeah. Obviously, Kimi with experience as well.
You've not got a lot of space there, have you?
I mean, I guess it's a little bit different, and we do end up close.
But track limits
on the curb, you know, you can stay on the curb. But yeah, 2x2 does go.
Yeah.
Same with me. I just feel like
you got to give each other racing room.
But the angle that Lewis came in was different. You and Kimi were like on the outside of the track and more, so you open up the corner, whereas Lewis was already right on the inside. The corner's really tight.
Yeah.
Basically, one of them kind of had to back out, or Max. You can use the runoff if you absolutely have to. No,
and guys, we've got 2019 and I think we've got the 2021 replays as well. Let's roll both of those so we can see how it is when the cars are where we think they should normally be positioned on the track. So here we've got Hamilton versus Bottas. This is 2019. Fighting through the stadium section and then onto that old start-finish straight. And this is the prime example of making the inside move and your rival giving you that space and kind of ceding the corner. There we go. So defensive again. And there we go.
Yeah. But that's teammates.
Yes, well, okay. Well, then let's look at, where am I, camera 2? Let's look at this year, and actually, if you've got it, let's look at Alonso and Vettel from 2014, because I think we've got all of these. Let's roll all of these back to back, guys.
Roll the tape.
Let's keep going back.
That's what the show's going to be now. Just
that's it.
All the Cops Corner passes for 20 years.
There you go, Alonso and Vettel, 2014, side by side. This was magic, wasn't it?
This is good.
Alongside each other, Bosch, and Fernando doesn't.
But the thing is, with all, as Alex just said, you've got to remember who they're racing as well, and it really changes how you drive. When you know you're racing your teammate, obviously you give a lot of space. That's the worst thing you can do, is to crash. Even at the end, when Lewis is racing Charles, he can't afford to. There's no risk there because he needs to take the points. But with Max, there's the risk. You can take the risk.
And here's the thing that we need to touch on, maybe we haven't done yet, is previous from this year. I'm thinking about Portimao, I'm thinking about Imola, races where they've gone wheel to wheel, they've got their elbows out a little bit and said, right, this is how I'm going to race you. There's a little bit of that. Also, I want to look at the sprint yesterday, where we realized from watching that Mercedes with their slightly smaller rear wing had the pace on the straights, but Red Bull absolutely had the pace through Maggots and Beckett's, through the corners, and with Max having the advantage at the end of lap 1, that was all he needed. It was all he needed. That first lap here was critical. Whoever emerged out of that in P1, they had the advantage for the race. They both weren't willing to give that up.
And they all started on the same tyre as well,
on
the mediums like everyone was yesterday. So it was just so crucial.
It really was.
Yeah, I mean, you saw how close they got even in the sprint race. And I think because of the way that unfolded and how Lewis saw how that played out, you could tell Lewis knew the closest opportunity he got on that sprint race was the first lap, and he knew before even the green light, the red lights went out, that he had to do it on the first lap.
Right, Charles Leclerc finished today's race in P2. It could have been a victory 70 years after Ferrari's first victory here at Silverstone. Let's hear from Charles Leclerc, who I think is in the paddock somewhere with Melissa Natu.
Yes, I am with Charles. Congratulations, P2. You couldn't hold on to P1, but how are you feeling about it?
Thank you. I don't really know how I feel. I've got 50% of me that is super happy, 50% of me that is extremely disappointed to lose the win so close to the end. But if you look at the overall picture, coming to the weekend, we did not expect to be fighting for a win. I thought it was all over in the first stint whenever we had those engine cuts. We tried to fix them. We fixed them partly, and then in the last 2 laps it slipped away from us. But I gave 200% of me, and it was very, very close.
Do you think the engine problems played a part in you not being able to hang on to into P1?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. The real answer is that I don't know. Of course, it made us lose quite a bit of time in the first part of the race, time that I would have liked to have at the end of the race, but it's part of racing. Lewis has been incredible today. He had a 10 seconds penalty and still came back. Congratulations to him. But I'm proud of my team today. I mean, it's a very difficult season for us. We are improving though as a team every races, and to be rewarded here with a podium and actually a fair fight for the win is incredible. So I'm very proud the way we are working.
And a sprint, how's it felt for you? We obviously had a new format this weekend. How did you feel the whole weekend overall was for Ferrari?
I loved it. Personally, I loved the new format. I mean, on Friday I'm always super bored, and I just want to get to Saturday where things are getting serious. At least this time, straight away on Friday, things were serious. If I can give one personal opinion, is that maybe we need to do something for the qualifying to have a bit more power, for especially to keep the qualifying for the Sunday start race. But the Saturday sprint race is a very good thing in my opinion. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the next 2 weekends where we'll have a sprint race on Saturday.
I mean, congratulations again, Charles, because P2 is nothing that we can't be happy about, right? So
yeah,
thank you
true.
so much,
Thank you.
and congratulations.
Thank you.
Will, back to you after very happy Charles with P2.
Thank you, Melissa. Charles, always so gracious with his time. Thank him for coming on the show. I think we have the replay of the moment in which he lost the race. Not to rub salt into his wounds, he's not here, he won't see it. I'm sure he'll see it later. And here we go, this is the moment we've been talking about.
Yeah, to me it's quite a similar scenario, just that, you know, he hits his apex, Charles gives him the space. Of course, Charles runs wide, Lewis gets past, but I don't know, Jolien, what do you think?
It's the same scenario, but with different drivers. That's
different drivers. But
Lewis is way more cautious. Definitely, he hugs the apex. He's taking like zero risk in that one. Whereas with Max, they were both like charging bulls at the start.
And I guess Charles is giving a little bit more room, thus his runoff on exit. He's further to the left.
And that's what's cost him in the end. Is actually avoiding the crash by also going off. So he's lost the win maybe because of that.
Before we close this off, because I think we've probably done it to death now, I want to talk the penalty, because the stewards, by giving Lewis that 10 seconds, determined that he was at fault. If you determine that a driver in a situation like that is wholly responsible for that, is 10 seconds enough? Is the precedent of biffing your championship rival out and a 10-second penalty for that, from which you can very easily come back and Lewis win the race, as he has done today, is that enough? Is that precedent sound?
Well, I've said I think it's a racing incident, so...
So you're not going to answer it?
So you're asking the wrong guy.
Okay.
Look, it opens, obviously, the window now for these guys to crash again. It's a really long season.
Yeah.
This isn't going to be the end of it.
No.
There's still the championship on. Max is going to be really frustrated at this one. He's lost a lot of points.
yeah, I mean, that's the thing for me, is what stops Max from being even more aggressive in the next race, doing the same thing Lewis did to him, and in a way extending his championship lead by this exact scenario. I think to me it won't set a precedent, because I don't think drivers aren't going to be maliciously hitting drivers off the track. But to me, yeah, it seems like obviously opposite to Jolien. I do feel like it leaves it open to. I think Lewis should have got something a bit more.
But I think also we've got to remember that Lewis is lucky to finish the race.
Yes.
We were all saying this because he carried on, but that level of impact that pitched Max off, and they clashed at really high speed.
Yeah.
If you do that normally, I was expecting when they touched that they both end up in a heap on the outside. So the punishment normally of racing that aggressive is that you risk both being in the wall. And Lewis is lucky that he had no damage. There was a red flag and they could check the car, and there's an element of luck.
And that's it. And we know Lewis isn't a dirty racer. Traditionally, he's not a dirty racer. You know, he doesn't get into contact all that regularly. Sorry, Alex.
Not intentionally.
Let's hear, though, from the two Mercedes driver. Let's hear from Valtteri and from Lewis. They finished third and first in today's race. It didn't always look like it was going to go their way, but both of them ended up on the podium.
Hey, Valtteri. Another podium, so that's great, but obviously you could have been much higher if the team hadn't asked you to move over.
Yeah, I think today for me the main issue was race starts. In both of the race starts I lost the place, and especially the second start when Lando got ahead of me. When he stopped, he had a slow pit stop, so it meant I had to react so we could actually get him that way, which was good. But then I also knew that the winning fight was pretty much gone, because my last stint was going to be really long, and already after 15 laps I had blisters in the front tires, so just really at the end nursing it home.
Can you take positives from the weekend as a whole, and you're building up a bit of a run of form now as well?
Yeah, you know, we can take positives. I think today we worked well as a team. We got really good points, and especially against Red Bull, so that is good.
I thought I was going to have a heart attack, to be honest. Going into when I got out the car, it was very emotional. The whole parade lap with the British flag, really proud moment for me. And the emotions just build up more and more as you come around to the end. And then you just want to go and like hug everyone. and then I ran around and I nearly had a heart attack. So, yeah, what a beautiful day, what a blessing it is. And we had a difficult week last week with the England squad, who played amazingly, and I just wanted to play my part. So I hopefully brought some joy to England.
You're having a titanic battle with Max. It's been great to watch. It's really bringing, I feel, the very best out of you. You're going to have a chat to him after this race before Hungary?
I don't know. I'm open to it. I don't have any issues. I mean, yeah, I don't know really what to say. Just game on. We're just going to keep on attacking. There needs to be respect on the track, and if not, then this will happen more often, I guess. But I'll try my hardest to stay, as clean as possible.
Congratulations again. Enjoy celebrating.
Well, there we go. That is your race winner, but not your championship leader. That is still Max Verstappen. And as we close out today's show, of course, we send our best wishes to Max on a speedy recovery from that massive impact on lap 1. Jolien, Alex, it has been it's been quite an amazing day here at Silverstone. A result the fans were hoping for, but possibly not the one that they might have expected, given the twists and turns of this race.
It feels momentous, but there's still a long way to go as well. So Red Bull have had the pace the last few races. We don't know what the pace would have been for them today. Yeah, there's a long way to go in the season still.
Yeah, and I think Mercedes, they've brought their upgrades. It's closed the gap again. It's tight now. It's back to how it was at the start of the year. So I think we'll see. It's still that chase, and obviously everyone's still pushing for next year. So it's where do you put your eggs? And yeah, it's exciting. I mean, obviously I wish I was in it, but at the same time I enjoy seeing how it's playing out.
Wish you're in it too, man. Let's get a rundown of the championship classifications at the end of this British Grand Prix, starting with the drivers. And as we said, it is, of course, Max Verstappen who leads the championship standings on 185 points. Lewis Hamilton on 177. It really is tight. Then Lando Norris with that brilliant result, moving up to third in the Drivers' Championship standings, ahead of Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez, Charles Leclerc in 6th and Carlos Sainz in 7th. Then Ricciardo, Gasly and Vettel rounding out the top 10. Just outside the top 10 then, in P11 is Alonso, then Stroll and Ocon, Tsunoda, Raikkonen and Giovinazzi with a point apiece, Russell, Schumacher, Latifi and Mazepin yet to score. In the Constructors' Championship, in P1 it is still Red Bull Racing, but the gap now just 4 points to Mercedes. McLaren in 3rd, Ferrari in 4th, and it's AlphaTauri and Aston Martin. Alpine in 7th, Alfa Romeo in 8th, Williams and Haas 9th and 10th yet to score. And Alex, you summed it up perfectly. It's so tight now as we approach the midpoint of the season. Just one race to come in Hungary before the summer break, and it really couldn't be much closer.
No, it's going as everyone wants it to. It's finally Mercedes getting put into a position where they haven't been in a while, and yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. Obviously, it just means now that I'm doing more simulator work than ever, every day more and more. But no, it's great to see, and I'm enjoying it very much.
And you're getting in the car tomorrow?
Tuesday. So I was watching actually qualifying, and I was already seeing the guys dropping their heads, struggling to hold their necks up. And I was thinking, if these guys, they've done already 8 races or however many we've done so far, and they're already struggling, I think I'm going to last about 6 laps. So it'll be great, but yeah.
Brilliant, man. Best of luck with that. Jolien, what a weekend we've had, not just in terms of the race that we've seen, but this new format for the weekend and a capacity crowd of fans. It's felt good, hasn't it?
That's been a Silverstone epic. We've had drama every single day, the twists and turns. I mean, Lewis on Friday, Max on Saturday, then the drama today. Couldn't have scripted it, really.
No.
And it's going to keep going.
It really is. It's been all smiles so far this season between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen, but if the British Grand Prix 2021 has taught us anything, it is that the gloves are off. Thank you so much for tuning in, folks. Our thanks, of course, to Lawrence Barretto in the pen, to Sam Collins, Melissa Nathu, to Jolyon Palmer, and, of course, to Alex Albon, who I threw under the bus on far too many occasions during today's show. Everybody behind the scenes that you don't get to see, and, of course, for you all for watching. We'll see you next time out in Hungary. For now, from all of us here, that is your lot.